I love the term best. It's nice to have a quick and easy answer for what's best for your situation. Over the years, I've collected an entire box of coolers for my various S4 Mini, S3 Mini, and other mini projects. But which one's best? You really have to take a lot of things in consideration. Noise, fitment, price, performance. I mean, really, what's best for you might not be best for me. I'm no reviewer because I don't have time to do anything really scientific, but I do think that the Almond C and PS2X and the Noctua NH-L9i are excellent choices for any small form factor build, and the best choices for the S4 Mini. So I figured, why not make a video about some of the coolers that I get asked about constantly for the S4 Mini. I'm going to be using the i7-6700K, which I don't recommend for the S4 Mini because it's really hot, but it will be a great stress test for these tiny little coolers. Noctua's NT-H1 is my thermal goop of choice, and I'll be using it for these tests, and first we'll be using the Intel box cooler. There's actually two Intel box coolers that will work inside the S4 Mini. One is 45mm in height, and the other one is 30mm, and you can find these on some lower wattage i3s. I'm starting with the 45mm cooler, and you see here we have a 1070 on the bench, being powered by a Pico power supply. Cool, huh? Actually, it's not cool, it's very, very, very hot. But I'm running Valley right now to get everything really hot because I want no cool parts throwing off my end results. I would consider the 45mm cooler a failure, so I'm not gonna bother to test the 30mm cooler for this particular CPU. Next up, the Cryo Reg C7, which is the cooler I get asked about most frequently in my emails because of the price and internet reviews. So as a business owner, I do not like to harp on people's products, but I have not bought a Cryo Reg product yet that did not have quality control issues. And this particular C7, one of the standoff studs was over a millimeter wider than the others and would not fit through the stand holes on the motherboard, which meant that I had to grind it down on the angle grinder and then re-tap it. Again, I've had to do this with all the coolers I bought from them. I know that it must be an anomaly, but there it is, and I'm getting frustrated at this point. I don't like to badmouth anybody, but that's just how it's been for me. The cooler's performance seemed to be pretty good compared to the box cooler though, and at the price, it might be very attractive for some. But just so you guys know, it will not fit in the S4 Mini. It's way too tall. One thing I really don't like about the C7 though, is there's no way to keep the standoffs from bottoming out your CPU and damaging your socket and your chip. Skylake's very prone to that, and as you can see, I was conscious of this and I still left marks on the bottom of the cooler, so be very careful when installing it. Okay, so next up is ROSWELL's cooler, which I'm not even gonna bother to pronounce, it's way too long. I love the look of the cooler, the fan looks interesting, the embedded design is nice, and it has a copper contact plate, so I'm hoping the performance will be better than the Intel cooler, but it's not better than the Intel cooler. It's also pretty noisy, it's noisier than the Intel cooler, and it's actually worse than the Intel cooler. So save your $13 and go with the stock cooler. Next up is the excellent NH-L9i, which I already know is really good, even though it is expensive. I love how it mounts. It uses 4 thumb screws that are perfectly the right height, so you can't damage your CPU. Perfect. Perfect and awesome. Good job, Noctua. Noctua's fans, of course, are legendary in their quietness and their performance, and the NH-L9i is no exception. Performs really good. It's the quietest cooler of the entire bunch. Really recommend it. But we still have more tests to go. Thermaltake's Engine 27 I have been really excited about, even at its ridiculous price tag of $50. This kinetic air-bearing cooler looks absolutely dope and is super low profile. Bad news is that it's a very noisy cooler, almost as bad as a typical server blower cooler. So I wouldn't use it even if the performance was good, and the performance really, it's okay, but as you're gonna see, it's not really acceptable compared to the competition, which is these Almond C and PS2X. Cooler I've been using and recommending for quite some time. Magic to this cooler is the low restrictive fin design, which does not trap air, makes the fan really, really quiet, and cools down surrounding components. It also looks really cool. In Predator Vision mode, we see that the motherboard actually stays a little bit cooler with this fan design too, which I kind of expected. And wow, it's actually a little bit cooler than the Engine 27, so yeah. Now that we have benched all these fans, literally, it's time to take the 2 best performers and stick them inside the S4 Mini. The motherboard I'm using is the Asus Z97i Pro Gaming Board, which is a very popular board apparently from all the emails that I get. And I like this board a lot, so I definitely recommend it. You can use the links in my description to buy it, and I can make a couple bucks, so thank you for that. We're now moving to the 1050 Ti, which does not require a power connector, and I love this card. I really do love this card, guys. It's awesome. Cool, quiet, good 1080p performance, easy to install, highly recommend it. Because of its low size and low wattage, you can actually run a BRICKLESS S4 Mini using this card, so I have a link in the description on how to do that. kind of, sort of. Point you in the right direction anyways. Okay, so the first thing that we see is temperatures are much higher inside the case by 4 to 5 degrees. So it really is not that bad. Again, this cooler is not designed to support the crazy hot 6700K, but it's actually doing fine and it's not throttling. One of the main benefits of using this cooler though is you can actually stack a thin 120mm fan over it, but does it actually help you out? Well, first things first, you can see the motherboard is actually getting a little bit cooler from putting the fan over it. So it does seem to be working, but does it drop CPU temperatures? I left the test running for another 10 minutes to see, and lo and behold, it actually does drop the CPU temperatures, so surprisingly, this combo does work. Quick disclaimer though, it does not work in all orientations or hardware configurations, but in this particular one it does. Okay, finally is the Noctua, and my hypothesis is that the Noctua will keep the CPU cooler, but the motherboard will be hotter. And so far, motherboard is hotter, so that part's right, but the CPU is actually hotter. So it looks like in this particular build anyways, the Almond plus the Scythe fan is the winner, which is surprising. That being said, the Noctua is probably the best choice all around and not so dependent on configurations and orientation. Plus, it's easier to buy one thing than two things, and well, it's a cool cooler. So there you have it.